Hello and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm giving my thoughts on Neotopia, a game by Arcane Wonders which has action points, tile placement, and pattern matching as its main mechanisms. Now, full disclosure, I did receive a copy of this game to review. Let's go ahead and start out with a brief gameplay overview and I'll come back with my thoughts on this game. Okay, so let's go over the basic gameplay here. You're going to have a board set up something like this. Each player is going to start out by taking a turn placing a token of their color on one of these central spots like this, or next to where somebody else is already placed. So let's say the green player places here, and along comes the purple player is going to put theirs there maybe. They could have also put on one of these ones or anywhere around this one. And then let's say the blue player then comes in, decides they want to come over here to this section, and then along comes the red player and they place there. And that's going to be the basic start to the game. And then on each player's turn, the player can do 3 actions. There are only 2 different types of actions to choose from on your turn. You're either going to be placing a tile from one of these factories that's adjacent to where you're going to place. And so these 2 factories are here. These 2 factories work for here, and these 2 for here. And the other action you can take is to grab a card from this row here or from the top of the deck. And those are cards you're going to be trying to score by matching the pattern that's on each card. At any time during your turn, you can claim a card from your hand as long as you have placed one of the tiles for that pattern on that turn, and the card's artwork does not match the artwork on the most recently played card in that area. So let's say that it's my turn and I have this card in my hand, and I see that this is already kind of set up here, so I could take a blue from here and a red from here, and I can score that card for 4 points. And so I'd put that right here, and I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And so that was 2 actions right there to place those out. I have one more action. I could choose to place another token out, or I could choose to grab one of these cards here. You may also claim bonus tokens on your turn if you place a tile covering one of these tokens here. So let's say on a future turn I'd come out here and here, or somebody else came out there on their turn. They could then claim this token, which can be used for a bonus action later on in the game. You also claim those when you get to these spots here that are highlighted. So let's say if I had scored some more points over here and I come here, I get to claim the top one from that section like that. Now, these bonus tokens can be played as a free action during your turn to either get an extra action, as this one does that, to play a token down from out in the supply here, or to play one of the tokens as normal, but you can place it in some of these faded out areas around the board if you are adjacent. So like right here, let's say I needed this spot to be able to make a pattern. I could take one from here and do that by spending this token right here. Or you have this token here, allows you to grab 2 cards from the display over here or even the top of the deck there to be able to use in the future to score points. These tokens are also worth 3 points apiece for any that you have left unspent at the end of the game. When all the tokens in a section have been placed out on the board, so let's say this one gets placed out here, then all of these that are on top here on the production tile are going to come away. You're going to flip that and you're going to put out new pieces based on what you see here, just like that. When the last of these central tiles is taken away, it's going to look like this. Is going to be the bottom one here, which just basically puts a new one of each color out. Then that's going to trigger the end game. And what's going to happen at this point, you're going to finish out whatever the round is, down getting back to the first player. And then you're going to have one last round for everybody to be able to take their final turn. And then at the end of that, you will score all of your points for the game and find out who the winner is. At the end of the game, you score points for the highest number of your tiles in each area. And so like over here right now, you'd have a 2 for green. Of course, this isn't even close to filled out. And so you get 2 points along that area for that. If I'd had one over here, it would not count towards that because they are not connected. However, if we had some over here like this, then all of a sudden that's 4. But of course, this one by itself does nothing. And so you're going to be scoring for 1 point for each of these tiles in your largest connected in each section. So 4 for green there, 1 for green there. And I'm not going to score everybody else, of course. This is just an example. And so you're going to score those points. And then wherever you are on here, the one that you are, let's say that this person was here, here, and here. You'll score 20 points here. You'd score 11 points here, but this being the lowest one, being at 9, would actually score triple points, so it scored 27 points at the end of the game. So you'd add up triple your lowest scoring plus the value of each of your other scoring areas plus 3 points for each of these you have left over in your supply at the end of the game. The player with the most points wins the game. Okay, let's start out with the game review by talking about the art and components. I really like the artwork in this game. The main board is very colorful. The images on the cards are great. Now here's just a few of the cards right here, and it's got several different unique images. I like the look. The acrylic tokens are the highlight of this game. They stand out on the board, and they have a great feel to them. I really like acrylic pieces and what they add to a game, and these are no exception. While there's not a lot of components to this game, the components in the game are great quality and look great, and they pulled me into this game from the start. Now let's talk about ease of access. This game is not too difficult to learn how to play and grasp the basic concepts. You're doing one of two things on your turn, and you're trying to score cards by matching patterns and trying to group together tokens of your color on the board. All very simple concepts. The setup, while not entirely difficult, was not the easiest to follow the first time around from the rulebook, but once we learned it all, it was very simple going forward. To set up each game as well, it's very simple once you've learned the process. Overall, this is not a difficult game to learn how to set up and play, so the ease of access is pretty easy to get into the game. Now let's talk about the gameplay itself. I do have mixed feelings about the gameplay on this one, and I want to say up front, if you are the kind of person that does not like to readjust plans when the board state changes between turns, then this might not be a game for you, especially at the higher player counts. Now at the 2-player count, the game is a little bit more strategical in that what you were planning on your previous turn is likely to still be available on your turn, especially as there are 3 different regions on the board being shared among only 2 players in a 2-player game, and there's multiple areas that will become targetable for placing tiles to score cards. However, in a 3-player game, there are 2 opportunities for the spot you were planning on using to get used up or changed in a way that makes it to where you cannot play what you were planning to play. This gets even worse in a 4-player game, and you have to be okay with the tactical nature of this game and having to constantly change your plans on the fly. For this reason, I prefer to play this game at the 2-player count, though I am okay with the 3-player count as well. I have not played the game at the 4-player count, but ultimately would prefer not to, as even the 3-player count can be a bit chaotic at times and make it hard to plan for future turns. Apart from the potential to mess up your plans, I really do enjoy the gameplay. There are quite a few things to try to balance throughout the game in order to score well. The game forces you to score points in all 3 regions because you're going to triple the score of your lowest scoring area. So if I score 25 points each in my higher scoring areas, but only 4 points in my lowest scoring area, then I will not be competitive with the person who scored around 15 points each across all 3 regions. And this leaves some interesting decision spaces as to what to focus on trying to score instead of just focusing on one area most of the game. Also, you are forced to balance scoring cards with getting your tiles down into various regions and trying to make sure that they are connected to maximize your score that way. You can collect bonus tokens and either use them to score points during the game or hold them to the end to score 3 points each at the end of the game. Sometimes it is better to hold on to them for points, and sometimes you can score more points by using them, especially if you are able to score points late game in your lowest scoring region, which then will, of course, triple those points when you go to that final scoring. You are also going to find yourself having to use different colored tokens throughout the game to score cards, which in some ways will help other players, but you can attempt to mitigate that a bit by placing tokens in ways that will not connect with others that have already been placed in that region. It is also interesting that cards that require 3 of a specific color and no other colors score only 2 points if that is your color, and it scores 4 points if it's the color of another player, since if you are doing your own color, you are going to be potentially benefiting from placing out 3 tiles of your own color, which is to your advantage already. But a player placing 3 of another color is not helping themselves at all, but rather helping their opponent with that tile placement. And so there's that interesting kind of way that they managed to mitigate that on those ones that have all the same color on them. As simple as this game is, it contains quite a bit of depth of strategy to score well. You do have to be cool with the more tactical nature of the game, in which you will have to change your plans on the fly because someone stole that spot that you had already planned to use. I also found it difficult sometimes to visualize the pattern as you are looking to score some of these patterns. Some are easier than others, and I got all the easy ones in here right now. But some of them are a little bit difficult sometimes to visualize as you're trying to figure out where to place them, especially when I was having to change plans and trying to quickly establish a new plan based on the new configuration of the board. A combination of the changing board state as well as the potential difficulties some may have in quickly recognizing how the patterns might fit on the board can lead to some analysis paralysis. But even with those potential AP turns in there, I found the game played very quickly overall, as our games all came in between 35 to 50 minutes, even with a few turns dragging out as someone was forced to pivot and struggled to see how to pivot immediately. If you like games that include pattern building and don't mind a rapidly changing board state that may change your well-laid plans throughout the game, then you might just enjoy this game. If you really covet being able to plan ahead and execute your well-laid plans, then this probably will not be a game for you, as this game constantly forces you to pivot, especially when playing with more than 2 players. At the 2-player count, this game does allow for a little bit more of that strategical play and less reliant on a tactical gameplay of being able to adjust on the fly. So keep that all in mind as to what player count you might be playing it at and your tolerance for having to change your plans up. Now let's talk briefly about the theme. This game is an abstract game, and as such, it is not thematic at all. The theme is technically building a city using resources, but honestly, just about any theme could have been pasted onto this one. If you enjoy abstract games, then this will be par for the course. But if you're looking for a game with a strong theme, well, this one will fall flat in that area. Now let's talk about replayability. This one is a tough call. So far in my first 5 gameplays, each game has felt different enough just by the different directions the cards that come up have taken us, as well as having to react differently depending on the tiles that others have placed down. But ultimately, there's not too much to bring a ton of variety to the table with this game, especially if you choose to play the same color each time. Though really, the cards really do make each color very similar in the way they play, so I don't believe that changing colors will make any difference overall. Don't expect a very different game every time you play, as there's only a limited variety of what will come up and in what order, which only mildly changes the way the game plays each game. Now let's talk about my final thoughts on this game, pulling everything together. We have enjoyed this game, but I recognize that this game is not for everyone. You have to be cool with plans changing regularly between your turns and having to pivot constantly, as people taking turns in between your turns will get in the way of your plans. Having 3 actions on your turn does allow you to set up and finish new plans, often all in one turn, but it may very well be different plan than you were working towards on your previous turn, so keep that in mind. Overall, I rate this game a 7 out of 10 based on some solid gameplay and on the art and components, which are beautiful and just great to use. The game is not helped along on a thematic level and ultimately is a bit of a question mark for me on replayability. As a game that plays pretty quickly, I can recommend this game as a game to play when you're looking for a quick game that is simple to play with a decent level of tactical strategy to it, and don't mind being forced to change your plans right before your turn regularly. As I have mentioned a couple times already, this game is more strategical and less chaotic at the 2-player count than at the 3 or 4-player count, as the more people taking turns between your turns means that there's more opportunities for your plans to get messed up and cause you to have to pivot. So keep all that in mind as you decide if this is a game for you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's given you something to think about as to whether Neotopia is a game that you will enjoy or not. And as always, I hope you will catch me in some more videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.